Good morning. Welcome to Saturday Morning Coffee. My name is Lance McKinnon. I'm here with my co-host, Tiffany Linderman. How are you, Tiffany?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. Good morning to you. How's everything?
Oh, it's great. I am super excited because we are welcoming back Chef Malcolm to the show.
The,
Hey.
the chef is back. Welcome back, Chef Malcolm. Happy,
Y'all do?
happy, happy Saturday to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good.
Uh,
How's everything been?
Everything's been well. Everything's been well. No complaints over here at all.
You're doing a lot of great things. We're seeing you on the internet. The kitchen's up and running and things like that. You want to touch on that real quick?
Yeah, so I'm doing a couple projects. The last time we spoke, I was working on my kitchen studio. So it's up, it's running. It's called Chef Studios, doing private dinners, hosting small events, working on some content that, hopefully you guys will upload on your links, and working on cooking classes and demonstrations and things of that nature to get people, a lot of people more involved in cooking. And, a lot of people have asked me to do it for the longest time. And I should have really done it during COVID since I was already in the house. But as an artist, when you want to create in the right space, and this is going to be the right space. So the Chef Studio is alive and it's running. And
That's
also,
good.
yeah, also I'm doing a consulting gig in Baltimore. So I'm in Baltimore City with the Guilford Hall Brewing Company. And so I consulted with them. I'm opening up their kitchen. And so we're actually up and running. They've only been open for 5 weeks. I've came in the last 3 weeks and kind of like changed the game. I'm a game changer. So I'm in Baltimore doing that as well.
Man, that's just exciting stuff. I mean, we learned a lot from the first time. That's why we're so excited to have you back today. And we're glad to help out any way we possibly can. But I know today you got a great story for us revolving around the history of cooking that's near and dear to your heart that I think the world needs to hear about it.
Yeah. So, well, just recently I wrote an article, and it was called "A Letter to My Black Chefs, My Fellow Black Chefs." I wrote this letter. It was inspired by my late uncle, James Baldwin, who wrote a letter to my nephew. This was almost about over 50 years ago, about 60 years ago. And it was a letter to my nephew, and it was written to my father, trying to navigate him through a racist place in America, living in Harlem, and dealing with, what I say in my article, one of America's biggest sins, and the repercussions and all the things that happened from slavery to Reconstruction, to Jim Crow, until even, how, African Americans are policed. So I actually wrote this article to fellow Black chefs for them to be able to navigate through this industry. Industry that is, we make up 18% of the industry as far as through the hospitality industry. We have African Americans have some of the biggest buying power that we spend in the industry, but we only hold 1% of, VPs or higher management or executives. So this letter was went back and talked about me coming into the industry. It talked about how the hospitality industry started, and which is basically off of the backs of a lot of African Americans via slavery. And I just took the chefs through a journey of all the places and things to look for as far as in the hospitality industry, as far as them going to get education through culinary schools, and then how to, if this is your passion, being a chef, how to elevate it and navigate through this industry, which is a tough industry to crack. So that was the gist of the article, and I actually published it in the same progressive magazine in which my uncle published it. So I felt, to show him some homage and show him some love about, trying to go there and get it published in the same place that he wrote his original letter.
And when you say publish, he not only just published papers. I believe he published 10 books, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Yeah,
probably more than,
he published 10 books, correct?
Yeah,
Around there.
Yeah, he was a great author. He was a great civil rights leader. A lot of his experiences came from his travels to France, but him growing up in Harlem, New York, and dealing with some of the things that African Americans being oppressed happened to them in the city. And so he, a lot of his books was about his journey, and a lot of the books was about things that he's actually witnessed.
Amazing. And so what are you hoping to get by the publishing of your article, to bring this back to light for more African Americans to realize the history, or are we spreading the word across the world?
Well, yeah, I mean, a little bit of both. I mean, obviously, the article speaks about equity, and having equity in this hospitality industry. Obviously, we want to know the history, because we want to know that where did all this cooking and originated from? Where did the hospitality originated from, and who are some of the people in the past that a lot of African American chefs can stand on the shoulders of? So, and we want to hold some of these organizations accountable for, if you are in the hospitality industry, let's see your diversity, let's see your equity, let's see your inclusion, let's see what who's on your board. The goal of it is to have, I wrote an article, from the break room to the boardroom, we want to see equity. And so, that's one of my goals, and kind of like speaking truth to power, right? Power to truth, is if there's going to be an opportunity for the next generation that's coming up to be a stakeholder, or be someone owning their own brand, or being a VP in some of these hospitality industry jobs, how can I help? And it's important that there's other chefs that are in my position that should be able to help and be able to guide and navigate a young mind that wants to get into this industry. So the hopes of it is that, I get other chefs that want to band together with me and say, hey, listen, let's check the industry. Let's see if it's held at a standard in which we're included as well. And if it is, then we'll give them a pat on the back. The numbers don't say that, right? And so in order for us to want some equity and inclusion in there, we gotta shake that tree up a little bit. And this article kind of shook the tree up a lot.
Yeah, I would just say that I think you help to be a voice so that others can be a voice and continue that. And I totally appreciate the fact that diversity across every seat of the table is truly important. And I'm so appreciative that you're raising that.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a conversation a lot of people want to steer away from. And here on Saturday Morning Coffee, we want to bring likes to everybody. Like,
right.
These are real things that are happening in the world. We're not sugarcoating it. We may lose some followers, we're going to gain some followers, but we're telling them the truth.
Right.
And the truth is what we're about, and sharing stories. And I know you and I talked in the past about our cooking backgrounds. We both had that Southern experience from our grandparents from the South.
Right. And Lance, you're right about, wanting to tell the truth, and you may lose some followers. I could have lost plenty of followers. I mean, like I wrote in the article, 80% of the people that patronize my brand and my talent don't look like me. And, me speaking of equity and speaking of inclusion and trying to find out and telling the truth and giving the numbers, because in that article, I show you data that the numbers speak for themselves. So, but for me, it was more, it was my double bottom line makes sense. I want profit, but I want purpose. So this article was about giving purpose. And I may lose some followers, but morally, I think that was the right thing for me to do, is to speak the truth, right? And hopefully, a lot of people open their ears and hear what's going on and try to make some changes.
Well, I'm going to put it in God's hands and say that we're not going to lose followers, because if we look at what's going on in the world today, these are conversations that are being held in houses privately. Nobody's talking about them in public. And I think it's a great format that we actually bring these outside and have people start talking about it, getting these conversations started so we can resolve these issues that have been going on for years.
Yeah, wholeheartedly, I believe that. And this is the first of, starting that conversation. A lot of, the industry, like you said, don't want to have this conversation because either it's number one, because they're not doing good practice. Number two, they don't want any negative press to come their way. And so, they're going to be the first ones to probably, shun away from it and say, oh, well, this is not really happening. We have this chef here or this VP here, but you're picking cherries. I mean, you're talking about one out of what, 100,000. So, if this conversation can continue with some real honest dialogue, right? And honest dialogue, not just saying and hitting everybody with the buzzwords and these certain things, and have some honest dialogue, then changes in the works for sure.
Do you have the opportunity where you do a lot of like the hiring on the front end, or is that kind of what you're want to help the companies to look at when they're looking to hire and promote within?
Absolutely. I mean, what happens a lot of times is that, and it's sometimes unconscious bias. I mean, you hire people who you hang out with, who you're around, and what circles you are in. And a lot of the CEOs or a lot of the head chefs or the executives in the hospitality industry may not look like me, right? And so they may not be in the same places. We don't run in the same circles, not because of, it doesn't have to be because of color. It could just because I don't like to play golf. So I'm not going to find a big deal on the golf course.
Yeah.
And what needs to be happen is if you have these diversity, inclusion, and equity like practices, then how to hire outside of what you are that's sitting at the board table, right? So in order for that to change, then it'll trickle down. It'll start to trickle down slowly. That you'll see more Black African Americans, Latinos in power, and that hold positions. And then when they start holding those higher positions, then they are going to be hiring inside their circles. So that's what's going to create a lot of diversity. It has to start from the top. And we just don't, for me, I don't want the small position. Like I'm not talking about the cook. I'm not talking about the bus boy. I'm talking about being a VP of a hotel or being a VP of a chain organization or restaurant where they're holding those practices, and then they can see those practices be transformed into good practices.
Yeah. And one of the things that will be brought up, and I'm thinking in my head, is that I know that you're not saying that the hospitality industry should just automatically hire somebody of ethnicity. They should hire the most qualified individual.
Absolutely.
And that's, I know, but I wanted to be clear to our audience. This is not where we're going with it. African Americans do not want something given to them. They have to earn it and be the best.
Absolutely. You want to make sure, one of the goals that I want to do personally is that I hear a lot of executives, a lot of CEOs always use, well, we don't see these people. Then I ask them, well, where are you looking? Right? Because there are qualified. We're not talking about unqualified people. I mean, across the board, you have to be qualified, number one. But where are you looking for qualified people? Are you going to historically Black colleges or universities? Are you doing open call or workshops or anything to find talent in these places? You have to know where you're looking, right? And not to say that they won't be at a Duke University as well, but if you're looking for diverse talent, then you have to go where diversity is excellence is educated, and that's our HBCUs. So we definitely I'm definitely not saying that I just want to have Black people getting hired just randomly. No, we want, right? And so you're exactly right. We're looking for qualified African Americans to be in these leadership positions.
That's a very valid point, because I work in the talent acquisition organization myself, and I have come to the point where I believe that names should be taken off of resumes. And if you take the name off a resume and you just look at what the individual has done, and you go off of those bases, you're going to find that you will find diverse, because sometimes the trained eye will go right to a name and come up with a stigma and go that route.
Absolutely. And, social media has made it, I mean, to be honest with you, I've talked to a lot of HR directors and people in HR, and they go right to your Facebook. So I'm gonna be clear, they go right to your Facebook. They look at your name, they go right to your Facebook. Not only they want to see what you look like, but they want to see what you're posting, like what's your background. So, any young person that's looking for a job and they're putting their name on the resume, which you have to be mindful of what you put on Facebook, because HR are going straight to your Facebook, and trust me, if it's some crazy stuff that you got on there, it's going straight into the trash. So be very mindful of what you put on Facebook and social media, because it'll come back to haunt you if you're looking for a job.
Good advice.
Absolutely. Put the phones down.
Right.
Put the phones down. And that's great. And I know that in your article, you go in depth about how very passionate, this isn't going to be just a one-time thing. You're going to be driving this, hard. What are you trying to do next to bring this conversation to the table with other chefs?
Well, one of the things that I want to do is to not to have the industry have any excuses about finding talent or qualified talent. So I want to start working with people that are in the industry and bring them up to speed, get them the talent, get them the knowledge, get them the education and the skills. So once the industry is looking, I'm gonna go to the industry and I'm gonna say, listen, this is what I'm doing. So when you're looking for talent, you need to look for what I'm doing. Look at what I'm doing with these young folks or old folks. It doesn't make a difference. Anybody that's in the industry. So I'm gonna meet you halfway, right? You meet me halfway, let's meet in the middle. I'll bring some of the hospitality industry down to the middle where I am, to where I'm training this talent. And now you have talent to pick from. Now, when you get this talent doesn't need to stay in the position in which they started. That's why we say we want to take the talent from the break room to the boardroom. Now, I need you to groom this talent. I need you to say that this is going to be a lifelong acquisition. This is not going to be a one and done. I'm going to take this talent and we're going to mold this talent. So this is going to be our future VP, our future CEO, our future CFO, whatever it may be. But we want you to take them from this state to the top. And then you'll start seeing diversity trickle down, because the hiring practices will change, right? And you go into any, like for me, when I was, first starting out as a chef, I could tell you every chef that I worked for was not a chef of color. Was not a chef of color. And it's hard to get kids in the industry when they don't see like-minded faces like them that reflect them, that mirror them. So they feel that if the chef, place that they go, the chef is never looking like them. It's like, well, you think I can ever be an executive chef? What's the likeliness of me being an executive chef? So, some of their the passion that they have could die away just because they don't see anybody that looks like them in a position that they want to be, right? And so it could be demoralizing a little bit to see that, in order to change that, what do we need to do to change it, right? And so I'm going to help the industry have qualified people, chefs, because, we take chefs, there's chefs out there that are making $300,000, $400,000. There's big time chefs that are executives that run big hotels, that run chains, and so there's an opportunity there. Like, how can I help? And what can I tell the industry to help me, right? And so these are the questions that I'll be continue to ask myself and try to continue to help.
Yeah, and I think by opening up your own kitchen and doing kitchen instructional cooking and things of that nature is going to be a beginning point of bringing in a diversity as well,
right,
of all nature to start showing. Because we analyze what we see. If you want to be a basketball player, you think about basketball and so forth. But I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. If you don't see that, I'm not going to follow that.
Absolutely.
Not unless you have that inner passion inside of you.
Right. And some people, I had it. I mean, I knew my end game I wanted to be. So, not everybody has that. So they need a little bit more encouragement. And so for me, I had the passion to keep on moving, even though none of my chefs looked anything like me. But, not everybody has that spirit.
Well, I think that's the great thing though, too. I think we touched on this last time you met with us, but you're also taking the time to work with kids. And so you're helping to inspire them to see where their life can be and go, so that they have an inspiration to look up to.
Yeah. And it's very important. I'm not going to say the name, but I'm trying to work with a company in Baltimore that does workforce development. And so we haven't had the partnership yet, but I'm going to speak it into existence. Hopefully it happens. And so then I can do much more work, right? I can have a team around me helping. So it's just not Chef Malcom Mitchell, because Chef Malcom Mitchell can't be there every day, all the time. I'm moving around, but hopefully, prayerfully speaking, this will happen and I will be able to do more work with young kids.
We're speaking into existence with you too. But then, and you know that you can count on us here, Tiffany and I, to do everything we possibly can to share this word. I know that when you and I were having a conversation last week, I sat back and I thought to myself, I talked with Tiffany, I said, this is going to be one of these hard conversations. Some people might frown upon it, some people, and it's going to open their eyes about it too.
Right.
And I think what's happening in the world, we need to start opening our eyes to what's going on around us. And, not just in the hospitality industry, I think all industries as a whole.
Right. I mean, for me, people really need to read the article. And before they read the article, they need to read my uncle's article first, James Baldwin, A Letter to My Nephew, so they can see where my inspiration came from in writing this letter. So it's a shake the tree a little bit, but it's a call to action, right? So it's a little bit of both. I'm not just beating people up. I talk about, the hospitality industry. I talk about colleges that, hospitality industry schools, like culinary schools, but I'm saying these things for them to open up their eyes and seeing, is this actually happening, right? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of, like, when I talk about the culinary schools, they've been shuffling a lot of Black and brown people through these schools and not giving them the skills that they need, and giving them the degree. They come to work for me. They say they graduated from this school. They have their degree. I question if their degree is valid. And it was hard for me to do, but I had to actually call the school and said, what's going on, right? What's going on? Because this person who has a degree has no skills, not the skills that you're saying that he has an associate's degree for. So a lot of schools have to be mindful. How are they actually training these kids to come out into an industry that's in competition with me? They're not training them well, because if they're in competition with me, because we're all fighting for a job, they're going to be hard. It's going to be hard for them to compete.
Yeah, you don't come out of college and go right to the VP.
No.
But no. I do want to touch on something that you made mention of about the article, about reading your uncle's article first prior to your article. I really want to emphasize that people need to read it with an open mind.
Absolutely.
And if you don't read it with an open mind, you won't be able to see the big picture. And I think that's one of the most important things. And
Right.
so, so all of our viewers, so you go back, I've gone back and read it, and I started reading some of your uncle's books with an open mind, which has opened my mind to things. But if you go in at 90%, you're going to have that 10% block and not see the big picture.
And it's always about the big picture. You know what I mean? But it's the groundwork that, we lay now in order to have a bigger picture. So, a lot of people won't agree with some of the things that James Baldwin says. And, a lot of people love the things that he says. So, you're gonna get a mix. And you got to think too, that was over 60 years ago that article was written. And so obviously things have changed with the help of some of those articles and books that and this activism that he has done has changed to how things are now. And I'm just basically trying to take the torch and keep it moving, right? And I'm just standing on his shoulders, and hopefully people can see big picture.
I'll say when I read I did not read your uncle's, but I have to go back and do that. But reading yours, I could feel the passion behind your words when you wrote that. And I can only imagine, did this take you several days to write? Was it like just you sat down and you laid your heart out on the page? How did it come to be?
This is funny. It took me several days. It took me several days, and I have to give the article that I wrote was actually over 4,000 words. And when I sent it to the Progressive magazine, they were like, "Love it, but it needs to be like 1,500 words in the article." That I said, "Oh my goodness, you're almost."
You just took the meat and potatoes off the plate.
Right. And so I have to give credit to Nikhil Cotton, who assisted me in being my editor and being able, because the Progressive said, "Hey, we can do it." But I was like, "No, because, you'll cut me in half." And I literally had to cut it in half. But with, me knowing Nikhil for over 8-9 years, she understands my spirit. She understands how I wanted to, the points that I really want to drive home. So it was a hard process because, I'm a chef. I don't claim to be a writer. People say I can write, but I just don't claim to be a writer. And so when you go to a magazine and they say, "Listen, we love it, but we needed you to cut," it was difficult. So that took a while to get that done. But when I started writing, I just started flowing. It just spewed out. It was just nonstop. And then to a point where I was like, I had to kind of stop myself because I could have kept going. And it could have turned. Because 4,000 words, 4,000 to 6,000 words is a short story. So I could have actually wrote a book on this, to be honest with you, and it would have just turned into like the whole history of. It had a lot of me to be in there. I actually had to, Tiffany. I had to stop myself and say enough, and that was kind of tough to do.
And I wanted to say this is a true testament of how powerful this message is, because we all know I'm not a writer, but to be able to be picked up by a publishing company and to have an article written, there's steps and processes to that. They don't just take any article, So there's some meaningful content to this that they're willing to say, "Hey, we want to be a part of Chef Mitchell's history and a part of the future. So we're willing to take this on." So this is a very powerful conversation for a magazine to take on.
Right, and it doesn't hurt to be James Baldwin's nephew either, though.
I was trying to help you out, but
listen. The crazy thing about it is like, I knew that it was some equity in that for sure. but the parallels just made all the sense in the world. And I'll be honest with you, it just literally just came to my head when I was actually talking to Nicole, and she was like, I was like, yo, I should just write a letter just like to the industry, like my uncle wrote a letter to my father. And it was just like, boom, and it just happened. But yes, that is not, it's hard to get an article picked up, published, and to let you know, I feel proud about it. It was a paid gig. I got paid for that too.
Yes.
Wow.
And I was like, I would have done this for free. I wasn't even thinking I was going to get a check for it. But it's like, okay, you get a check. I was like, and I get paid. I was like, this might be my next little side hustle.
Well, I can do like pictures or something like that for you or something, but I won't be good at editing things for you. We'll have to bring Tim in for that.
If I didn't have an editor, that thing wouldn't have got picked up, trust me.
So we definitely want to make sure that when we send this out that we have everybody who helped you in this process of publishing this article. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy Saturday and sharing this true story with us, because we need to pass it on to the next generation. You know, we talked about in part one, there's a lot of things we need to continue to pass on to the future. And it starts with us. And, and you are being the change, that you want to see in the world. And, and I commend you for that. And keep doing that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And
you just took the words I was going to say. So I'm with you there. You're doing great things one day at a time. So I'm excited to continue to watch what you're going to do, Chef Malcom.
Yes, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys too, for sure, helping spread the word. You guys were on my list when I told you this article was coming out, and I said, listen, let's see if we can make some noise.
That's very humbling to know that we were first on your list.
Yeah. You were first on my list. I told you when I was on the show before, I said, listen, however we can work together and spread the word, and I can help you guys out, and vice versa, I'm there. I'm a man of my word. When I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And if I don't say it, then I'm not going to do it. I appreciate you all having me on here, and I'm glad to be a part of the family.
Yeah, and I like so it's a great story, and I think it's going to stir up a lot of conversation, and I can't wait for it to hit the world for other people to hear it, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'll let your viewers know that it's on the Progressive magazine. It's on their link on their website. We'll put links when you guys send this out, but it's on my feed as well. I'm Chef Mitchell 1 on Twitter. Chef Mitchell on Facebook, and Chef Malcolm Mitchell on Instagram. So I posted it all. If anybody wants to check that out, make sure they check it out. And once again, please read my uncle James Baldwin, A Letter to My Nephew. Before you read my article, give you a basic how I started this article and the purpose of me writing this article.
Yep. And so all of our listeners, they know we pre-record these. So the article has already come out.
Yes.
So the article has already come out. So we'll revert back to the original date of the article so everybody can find it once we release this part 2.
Absolutely.
And for some reason, I think we're going to have another continuation conversation. So I know that I'm not even going to say part 3. I know we just got another continuous conversation in the future.
You're going to have a lot more, man. My industry is just opening back up. So I've been in hibernation, and you poke this bear and I'm waking up, and we're going to start shaking up a lot more content, a lot more things with food. And a lot more of these conversations. I plan on continuing what the article was about, and then just pushing the envelope a little bit forward.
Amen, brother. And like I said, the hospitality industry, the world's opening back up. There's jobs opening up there. There's companies that are hiring.
I'll get you a job.
Yeah, there's restaurants that are just waiting for employees to come to their door. So let's leave our houses and get back into the game.
Yes, let's do it. Help us out.
All right. But Chef, again, thank you for joining us, and continue to make a difference today and every day, brother.
I appreciate you all.
Amen. Thank you.